Hey everybody, Greg Pruitt here with Idaho Second Amendment Alliance, and I am joined today by a special guest, Austin James. Thank you for sitting down with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So you are one of, I would say 10 victims, but honestly, I think anybody there was at the Twin Falls in and out that day in the visitor center, and there's lots of victims, and even if you're not injured like you were, there's still a lot of mental trauma for going through something like that. So I wanted to, I guess, we can talk about several things here, especially for gun owners who want to maybe learn something from your experience that day. But maybe before that, can we go to, you guys live a little bit away from Twin Falls. Did you come to Twin Falls just to go to In-N-Out? Were you in town for something else, or why were you there that day?
So funny enough, we were actually obviously coming to Twin Falls quite a bit just because Shoshone where we live, you got to come in to do anything. So we were here running a couple different errands. We'd gone over to Barnes and Nobles and we're heading to O'Reilly to get oil so I could change the oil in my vehicles. And coming originally from California, In-N-Out was always kind of like a thing.
That's
for
a staple, right?
Yeah. Right. So, with it being new to Twin, I was like, trying to show everybody, like my family, my wife, and our friend Jarrid, all the hype, I guess you can call it. So we were like, let's see what the line looks like, because obviously it's had been kind of a long line since it opened and whatnot. And so we were just like, let's go grab some food. Let's see what the line looks like. If it's too long, we'll bypass it. We'll go somewhere else. If it's not too long, then we'll see what we can get. And ironically, there was a couple different times while we were in line that we were like, okay, like it's starting to take a little bit too long. Like I was getting a little bit impatient. I think 2 or 3 different times that we're like, okay, if this line doesn't move in 2 minutes, we're leaving.
We're going.
And it would move, and so we're like, okay, we'll sit through it, kind of thing. And so it just kind of one of those things that worked out the way it worked out.
Yeah, and it is crazy too. Like In-N-Out will get. I remember when they opened the first one in Boise, it was like an 8-hour wait sitting in line. Right? And the Twin Falls one's not really a great. I mean, it's a great location for a view, but in terms of parking, and stuff, it's kind of a nightmare. So, Okay, so you're in line, you're moving, through that line. What happens next? I mean, I assume you start hearing gunshots, and you're like, this can't be happening right now.
So we ordered our food. They came by, gave us their little order ticket or what have you. We were probably 2 or 3 cars back from the pay window where you pay for your food. We heard the first gunshot, which at the time didn't know it was a gunshot, just because like the acoustics with the overhang and the landscaping and everything made it kind of hard to tell exactly what it was. We, like Connie and I and Jarrid, we all kind of looked at each other like, what the heck was that? Don't really know. It almost sounded like a tire popped or something. And then there was obviously a break between the first one, and then the follow-up gunshots. And then so as I recall it, we heard the first one, there's a little bit of a break, and then I heard the next like 2 or 3 shots, and that was when I kind of figured out something was going on. About that time, we saw everybody start running out of the inside of the building. So they were running out the south doors, and so we were obviously in the drive-thru, so I was still in drive. So I threw the car in park, told the wife and Jarrid, said, "Hey, stay in the car," and I just got out and took off running.
Did they try to stop you at that time? Or like, no, don't do it, don't?
No, I think it just happened so fast.
Yeah.
I know Connie has said like I was out of the car before she could even get anything out. Just instinctually, stuff happens. And I don't think they would have necessarily tried to stop me, just because like Connie and I have talked, like she knows who she married, kind of thing. So it was kind of one of those like that she knew that if something like this was to happen, that's something that I would do, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I just was worried about them staying safe. So I felt if something crazy was going down, which obviously there was something going down, the car was better for them to be in than to be out in the open running, because we didn't know where he was, we didn't know where it was coming from. I didn't know what direction he was shooting or where he was moving or going or anything like that. I've talked with a lot of family majority of places in Twin Falls I'm pretty familiar with as far as like layouts and, you know, because, you know, I used to work for the city and all that kind of stuff. And so in and out being so new, I didn't know the layout of the building. I didn't know that as you go down the drive-through that it curves around to another window. So I didn't really know any of that. So going in, you know, I was pretty blind to where he was. From the shots, they sounded far away, which is why when I got out of the car, I took off at more of a jog / run rather than like walking or slow walking. Because in my mind, I needed to get to the situation and assess what was going on before I made any kind of decisions. Which also plays into why I didn't draw my gun initially.
I was gonna say, that's obviously one of the big questions from your former law enforcement. And I think in their minds, it was like, why didn't he draw? You know, that would have been the first thing I would have done. And, you know, but again, and I tried to talk to gun owners like, hey, look, in your mind, you think that's what you're gonna do, but then something's happening, you're not sure, you know, and in that situation, what you would have done. So
there's a lot that kind of plays into that. Obviously there's the aspect of like everybody's running, it's chaos. You don't know who the shooter is, you don't know where they are, you don't know how many other people like myself are armed, right? If I draw my gun, I'm just some guy in a t-shirt and jeans with a gun and there's a known shooter. Right? So there's no way, you know, it's different than like when I was in law enforcement, right? I wear a uniform. Clearly identifies me as not a shooter, right? But not having that clear identifying uniform or anything, there's no way to know if somebody else, like any of the other two guys that responded with a firearm, if they had seen me, they don't know who I am. They don't know that I'm not the shooter, right? They're responding just like I was, pretty much in the unknown, except for there's somebody with a gun shooting. That's all we knew. And so in my mind and everything that I trained and all of the training that I had received, it made more sense for me to respond concealed until I could figure out the situation, assess the situation and make a plan from there, than for me to just go running in with a gun because of kind of everything that was going on.
And you're jogging essentially, and you can see that. You're moving fairly quick. To where, and then obviously run right into him.
Right. And that was the other thing, is obviously not knowing where he was. I thought I had more time. I thought I had more distance. So my plan, for lack of better terms, if you can even call it that, was, you know, to get to an area, see what I can see, make an assessment, you know, understand the situation, and then act accordingly. Obviously, I didn't have that much time. When I came around the corner, there he was. You know, and the instincts just kind of kicked in, and in that split second, I knew that he had the drop on me because I could see he already had his gun out. Obviously, mine was still away. As soon as I came around the corner, he started grazing the gun. So I knew, okay, I don't have time. Like, I'm a pretty quick draw, but it's not that fast. Right? I don't know that there's many people that are that fast. You know, obviously responding as a, you know, not in uniform, you don't have any kind of protection, right? There's no body armor, there's none of that.
Which wouldn't have helped.
Which,
you know, since you got
in this situation, would not have helped. But
do you remember, right? You know, because now we've seen the video, but prior to the video, was your memory, because I know a lot of people with that kind of trauma, I mean, your memory can just go completely and be like, I have no idea what happened. I saw him raising the gun, and then all of a sudden it was, you know, it happened? Or did you remember?
No, I remembered it.
Okay.
Pretty much exactly how it happened.
Did he aim? Because it looks like in the video, he almost from the hip just like raised this gun and shot. Like, it didn't look like he was actually aiming.
No, that's kind of what it looked like as he was standing there. He had the gun down at his side, and as I come around the corner, he just kind of aims it up and just point shoots, basically. There was it wasn't like he took a two-handed shooting grip or anything like that. It was just kind of a one hand, let me just toss this gun up here. And
what went through your mind as you came around? You see him, he's raising the gun. I mean, what was your immediate thought?
My immediate thought was, oh crap, saying it nicely. And was kind of like, I don't have time to do anything. Like, I need to create space and distance. Like, as much as I would like to think, oh, I'm invincible and I could just stand here and draw my gun and shoot this guy, like that's not the reality, right? Like the reality of it is I need time and distance so I can better prepare. So that was kind of what led to the turn and run, was to try to get some distance for myself from him so I could get my gun out, because obviously I didn't have it out. Heard the shot, felt something, didn't really know what it was, but I knew I wasn't on the ground. I knew I was still moving, so I knew I was more or less okay.
Yeah.
As I continued down the driveway, or the drive-through, it sounds kind of bad, but I could see my arm flopping as I was running, and I could see the blood already, so I knew I was hitting the arm. I knew at that point I knew any further action was going to be support side, right, left-handed, which...
You're right-handed, I assume.
Yes, I'm typically right-handed. So seeing that my arm was not going to be useful, I knew I was going to have to draw and do everything left-handed. Not uncommon. I've trained it.
Sure.
Law enforcement, we train it all the time. So it wasn't like a, oh crap, I can't do anything now moment. It was, yes, I'm hit. I'm not dead, so let's fight.
Yeah.
And so instinctively, I drew my gun left-handed, which created some issues just because the way my gun was oriented made it a little bit more difficult, but luckily I appendix carry, so it was still much easier than if I was carrying like on the side of my hip kind of thing. Got the gun out, and then obviously like everybody saw, like I went to go shoot, and for whatever reason didn't have one chambered that day, which is very, very unlike me. I've been carrying for a lot of years. Obviously in law enforcement, you always have one in the chamber.
Right.
Just kind of the way I was trained, the way I was taught, everything.
And you still, to this day, cannot figure out
Still don't know
why that one day
No idea.
nothing was in.
Yeah. So other than it was meant to be.
So when you pulled the gun and you get it and you aim it, and obviously nothing happens, where you're like, what in the world is going on here? Like why is there not one in the chamber?
Yeah. So the thought crossed my mind of what's going on, but then pretty quickly it turned into, okay, well, I got to fix this issue. I got to fix this situation. So immediately I went to try to rack my gun. Obviously not having another hand, you got to figure out some other way to do that.
Right.
So immediately I went to try to rack it on my belt, off the sights. Couldn't get that to work. My belt was flopping around on me because I've lost a little bit of weight, so it was a little loose, and so it wouldn't work. Couldn't get it to rack, couldn't get it to catch on the belt, so I couldn't get one chambered. And then about that time is when Jarrid and Connie kind of got to me, and given kind of my injury, Jarrid was able to grab onto me and started pulling me back towards the car, because to be honest, without them, I probably would have kept trying. I probably would have stood there and tried to do something else and tried to make it work, or figured out some other way to get the gun back into the situation. But like in all reality, like I was in a bad spot, right? Like, and obviously I didn't know it at the time. I knew I was bleeding. I didn't know how severe.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't have made it had they not intervened.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
have they told you? So right now you're injured really bad. You can't rack your firearm. Have they told you, like, did they see you bleeding? They were like, oh crap, or did they come looking for you? Because it seems like you were fairly close to where they came from.
Yeah. So when I got out of the car, obviously I was driving. Connie, my wife, was in the passenger seat. Jarrid was in the back seat. When I got out of the car, Connie jumped over the console, got into the driver's seat, so that way if they needed to get going or we needed to do something, like she was ready, kind of thing. And then by the time she got into the passenger seat or into the driver's seat, I had already got shot and was coming back. And they said that as I was running back towards them, they could just see the blood just pouring out of my arms. And they're both ER nurses, and I think they both have said that they've never seen so much blood at one time.
Yeah.
Which, come to find out, it was an arterial bleed, which obviously I didn't know at the time.
Right.
And I think, don't quote me on it, but I think it's about 3 to 5 minutes is what they say for how much time you have with an arterial bleed before you bleed out.
Wow.
So like I was in a really bad spot.
Yeah.
And thankfully that they were there, because they said once they saw my arm and how much blood I was losing, they both sprung into action just like I would have, or just like I did, just in their way, right? They're ER nurses, like they're trained to respond to like those life-threatening injuries, and they saw that and they both sprung into action. And it's funny because we watched the video that the TFPD put out, and you can actually watch both the driver's side and passenger side door of our vehicle open at the same time. They both jump out, immediately start running into me. Like they 100% reacted, you know, in a way that you would expect somebody like that to react.
Well, and I mean, even though your wife's a nurse, it's different, right?
Yes.
I mean, she could have treated 24 of the same injury, and there's no emotional connection necessarily, other than trying to save a human life. But now it's her husband. Has she told you what that was like, or was it just it didn't matter? I'm an ER nurse. He's just like everybody else. I got to get this fixed.
So there was definitely, you know, we've talked about it, and there was definitely an aspect of this is my husband, not just a patient. So there was a little bit more, I don't want to say panic because that's not the right word, but a little bit more emotion involved in the response initially. I do feel that she handled herself phenomenally well throughout the entire response, right? I think if she wasn't a little bit panicked because it is me, I would almost be a little bit concerned, right? But she did an amazing job, and this is the part that people don't understand, right? Is they came, they got me, put me in the car. We're in the car. From the video, we figured out that we were in the car for 4 minutes, which seems like a really, really long time.
That's a long time. Yeah.
But in the car, we're trying to call 911. We're trying to explain, get people knowing what's going on. We're trying to tend to my wound because I had a tourniquet in the car with me. We're trying to get the tourniquet on. I'm trying to get the tourniquet out of the bag, but I have one hand. I can't get it. She's trying to call 911. We're trying to get everybody situated so we can get out of their situation. It's kind of funny, but she obviously gets in the driver's seat, but I had been driving. I'm a fairly tall guy. So when we're getting ready to go, she can't reach the pedals because it's set for me to drive. So in that small time, there's a little bit of a delay, like maybe a couple seconds, where she's trying to figure out how to get the seat to move forward, right? That was in those high stress situations, and we talk about all the time in law enforcement, those high stress situations, some of those like small details, minute motor functions kind of go out the window a little bit. So that small processing was impaired for just a second, and she figured it out and realized it, and she did great. But on the flip side of that, as we were leaving the scene, you know, we weren't able to get the tourniquet on because the wound was too high, right? The exit wound's up here, and there's really not enough distance between that and your junctional area to get a tourniquet on. And this is, you know, one of those learning moments is the tourniquet that I had in the bag isn't a tourniquet that I've trained with a lot. It was a tourniquet that I had gotten in like a subscription box, and it's still a good tourniquet, just not, you know, it's not a cat tourniquet, which is
if you haven't trained with it.
I haven't trained with it as much, so it wasn't as functional, it wasn't as effective as like if it had been a cat tourniquet that I have a lot of experience with. So we ended up abandoning the tourniquet, and Jarrid ended up just holding direct pressure. In all reality, it wasn't even direct pressure. I mean, Jarrid took his hand and stuck it inside my arm and found the artery because he said he could feel it pumping. So he was able to actually plug the artery, not just direct pressure, but actually plug the bleeding. So 100% completely changed the outcome of how all this went down because of what he did, right? So, and that's not, you know, I talk about training. That's not something you train for as an ER nurse, right? Because generally, by the time they get to you, that's already semi-controlled, right? But he was super calm during the entire situation. Connie was super calm during the situation. Like, everybody handled the entire situation almost as perfectly as you could, given what was going on, given the chaos, to end up the way that we did, right? So as we're leaving, once we get everything situated, Jarrid's got pressure on me, we get driving, we're able to get out of the situation, get out of the driveway. While we're en route, you know, Connie has the wherewithal to think we need to let the hospital know that we're on our way. Otherwise, they're not going to be prepared, right? And it was rolling back a little bit. It was even Connie's. I knew I had the tourniquet in the bag in the back seat, but I wasn't thinking about it.
Yeah.
Right. As much as I've trained tourniquet, self-aid, all this kind of stuff, it was Connie who said we need to get a tourniquet on that, and it was like, oh, I got one. Holy cow!
Yeah.
This is crazy, right? But while she was dealing with the seat, dealing with trying to call 911, she still had the wherewithal of herself to say, hey, we need to get a tourniquet on this, right? So super, super clear mental path for that, right? Then as we're en route to the hospital, she has the mental fortitude, for lack of better terms, to say, hey, we need to call into St. Luke's. So I grab my phone because she's driving. Jarrid's got both hands on my arm. I'm the only one with a free arm. So I grab my phone and I try to call St. Luke's. Well, it goes to their main line, which is the phone tree.
Oh, jeez.
Right? So we're like, we don't have time for this. So I hang up. Connie then goes, I remember the phone number for the desk in the ER because she used to work at the ER in St. Luke or in Twin Falls for 5 years. So she just remembers the phone number, and as she's driving down the road, trying to navigate traffic, navigate us, keep us, secured in the back, she's able to reiterate the phone number to me. I'm able to call into the desk in the ER, and Jarrid, applying pressure to my arm, is able to give just the most fantastic call-in ever, right? Gives them all the pertinent information, tells them, what the injury is, the fact that it's an arterial bleed, that we're going to need a stretcher and or a wheelchair of some sort to get us from the ambulance bay. It gives us an estimated time of arrival, just the most perfect call in, right? And honestly, Connie could have done it. I could have done it. I've done it a few times working on the ambulance, but Jarrid handled it so perfectly, and it was just absolutely wonderful. And so then we get to the ER, and we got there. Connie got us there so fast that I don't even think they had enough time
I was gonna wonder, because you're trying to escape, but so is everybody else,
right?
And I gotta imagine for her that's super stressful, because you're not in an ambulance, you're not in a cop car, right? It's just you, so you're, was it we're going as fast as we want to go, we don't care about anything else, we're gonna run red lights if we have to,
more or less.
I don't know, what's the distance to the hospital from where that is? I don't know the area well enough.
It's probably
if you're going normal speeds.
Normal speeds, it would take you probably 5-10 minutes depending on light cycles.
Yeah.
Probably. I think we got there in 3.
Wow. Did it seem like you were able to just hit everything right? Or
Nope.
you were blowing through everything?
So she turned on her hazards and was just basically laying on the horn the whole time, trying to get through, trying to get people moving. There was a couple times that we were able to run a red light, but
I don't think anybody cares.
I would have done it, told anybody to do the same thing in this situation, right?
Yeah.
There was one intersection that we got kind of stuck at, just because the way traffic lined up, we were at a red light, there was no way around it, and like I said, we don't have emergency lights, we don't have anything, we have hazards and a horn, so people are probably looking at us what the heck's wrong with you, right? And so they're just sitting at the red light, which can't really fault them, right? Sure. They don't know what's going on. And so we got stuck at that light for a little bit. Connie even went as far as to roll down the window and try to yell at these people because she saw that they had a window down. So she's trying to yell at them saying, hey, I have a gunshot victim in the back. I need you guys to move. That's the very PG way of what she said.
I'm sure.
But it's still, people are kind of in their world and no fault to them. They don't know what's going on.
One in a million thing,
right? All they know is that there's this crazy car behind them with their hazards on, honking and screaming at them, right? They don't know. It is what it is.
Some Karen's yelling at me.
Right. So, you can't really fault them for it. But once we got that, that space, that clearing, she took over and she hauled ass, for lack of better terms, to the hospital, and I would expect nothing else, and honestly, as a husband, as an ex-police officer, having the training and driving that I do, I was super impressed with the way she drove. She drove phenomenally. I was super impressed with Jarrid, and even though he's holding pressure on my arm,
it's crazy.
and we're in the back seat, basically in our single back seat. He's almost sitting on my lap at this point, just because of the way that the layout works, and to be where he needed to be to keep the pressure. Him and I are able to help, clear intersections, or like backseat drive, for lack of better terms. Just extra eyes, right? In those type of situations, extra eyes are helpful. But honestly, she didn't need it. She drove great, and she got us there, and we got there. And
were they ready to go?
Not as much as we would have liked.
Sure.
But given
would
the
have been
time
a lot
frame,
worse.
Given the time frame that they had, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like, it still takes time to get stuff going. Even though we were able to call it in, we still got there in 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's just fast. Like, there's just not a lot of time. So luckily, we were still in a good enough position where Jarrid and I were able to get out of the car and just walk into the ER, and they were having to get the room ready for us and everything like that. And luckily, and we found this out later, luckily our call-in gave them about a 5-minute window to prep before the first ambulance even showed up. So we were in the ICU. We did have the charge nurse from the ER that day come into our room and said, "Hey, thank you so much. Like, your guys' call helped us prepare."
Yeah, because they probably started hearing the reports like, "Oh no, this is bad."
So, and that was part of Jarrid's call-in was, "Hey, this is a shooting. Like, this is a mass shooting. Like, there's multiple victims. Like, we're on our way in, but there's more coming in," kind of thing. So it wasn't like they just got ready for us. They were able to start making phone calls to get the people in that they needed to get in, to get the surgeons in, to get, extra staff and everything. So, like I said, it was kind of a perfect set of circumstances for it to end the way that it did, right?
Yeah. Did your wife or Jarrid at any time, from the time they see you bleeding out to getting into that surgery, did they have any thought like, is he going to make it? He's lost. So, because you told me they gave you a lot of blood.
No, so that's the one thing. That's the one thing we were not 100% sure on.
Yeah.
In the ER, they were talking about giving blood. They talked about at least a unit of blood. We figured I had lost quite a bit of blood given kind of everything. But going through the charts, I don't know for sure if I got any blood.
Really?
Yeah, just going through the charts, it's hard to track it in the charting system.
Yeah.
For me and for us, so I can't say 100% sure one way or the other if I did or if I didn't. But I know there was talks about getting blood. Yeah. But that's about all I know.
Yeah. What about, how did the surgery? I mean, because if he's putting pressure on a serious artery, I mean, that's scary, because you got to get put under so they can do the surgery, and you've got to make sure that you're not bleeding out while they're cutting you open and doing all that stuff.
So that's the one thing, and I've been meaning to ask somebody, and I still don't quite remember, because I remember once we got into the hospital, they sat me down in the trauma room, and then at some point Jarrid had to let go of my arm. And I know he was hesitant, because when we were in the back of the car, he let go for a second to try to, because he saw the gunman at some point. So he was looking for my gun. So he let go for half a second at one point in the car, and the blood just started pouring out again, and he realized he couldn't let go at that point.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing I don't really remember. Is I don't know at what point Jarrid let go and what they did to stop the bleeding at that point. So I don't know how they went about stopping that. They figured it out somehow. But and then the vascular surgeon came in when we were in the ER, and she was phenomenal. And I think it was actually her NP. I don't think it was the actual surgeon herself. I think it was her nurse practitioner who's on her team that really went to bat for me to get up to surgery quickly.
Okay.
Because they were kind of looking at everything and were a little bit unsure of exactly what was going to be coming through the doors. So they didn't know if they had the ability to go into surgery right here, right now, or if they needed to wait and see if maybe there's something a little more serious that would have taken precedence. Or taking precedence. But the one NP, she was basically kind of really pushing for me to get up to surgery quickly. and I know it was making Connie nervous too, because she was seeing that we're going on, you know, I don't know, I think by that time we were probably 5 to 10 minutes of no circulation of my lower part of my hand. I think they said something, made a comment about like my blood pressure was dropping or getting pretty low. I remember looking down and my hand looked pretty pale at one point just from lack of circulation, and Connie had made that same comment, so I know she was getting a little nervous that they were kind of out talking about waiting. So I do think it was helpful to have that NP come in and kind of push for us to get into surgery quickly. Which I did feel like we got into surgery pretty quickly from the ER. I don't feel like I was in the ER for very long before they were wheeling me up to surgery.
And so what was the damage?
So
I know that's out there, but just for the video.
Yeah, so it was a total, like, not laceration, but like basically severed my brachial artery and fractured my humerus. So the initial surgery that day was to repair the artery so that we could reestablish blood flow. And they did that by taking a section of my vein out of my arm. So when they were in there, they were able to find a section of vein that was big enough to handle the flow and the volume and the pressure, and graft that in on the artery and get that fixed. And then they let that heal for a few days and then went back in again with the orthopedic surgeon to put in a 12-inch plate on my humerus with like 12 screws and 3 lags or something crazy like that.
Yeah, fun at airports.
Yes, yeah. So, but hopefully that's the end of surgeries. The vascular surgeon did say that all the nerves and everything look good, look like they're intact. There's still some nerve issues at this point, but there's also a lot of swelling. There's a lot of other factors that go into what is going to affect the nerves and what does affect the nerves and whatnot. And the nerves are the slowest healings of all the tissues. So they said it's kind of an unknown thing at this point as far as what of the nerves will come back or what won't. What long-term effects we're looking at, kind of thing.
Yeah, jeez.
Yeah,
but I mean, you're alive.
Yes,
right.
Alive.
And that's a huge blessing, and you obviously got a wife and her friend that. I mean, it's all miraculous that you're, especially. I mean, as close as it looks like you were to him, that he raised that gun up and thankfully didn't aim straight.
Yeah.
And hit your arm.
Yeah.
Hit your arm instead.
Yeah. And it is close, and I don't know if that it even ever got out there, but the bullet actually did graze my rib cage. Oh, so really? There's probably like a 6-inch graze mark along my rib cage. From where the bullet actually hit first, grazed, and then hit my arm and went out, kind of thing. So,
oh my gosh,
it's if he had been 2 inches to the left, we'd be looking at a very different situation.
Several major wounds at that point.
Yeah.
Is there anything? I mean, other than you can't figure out why there wasn't a round in the chamber, is there anything else you would have done differently that day? Because I'm sure you've replayed that in your mind a million times. Like, well, if that ever happens again, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, or I should have done. Like, what can gun owners learn from your experience on going into a situation like that?
So I think it all comes down to training, right? Obviously, being in law enforcement, I had the luxury of having really good training for a lot of years, and that's the thing is like there's training. But then there's also like good training, right? And like we can all go out and we can all throw rounds down range and and that kind of stuff. But there's a lot to be said for not even on the range training, but mental rehearsal, right? And law enforcement, they teach us a lot. Like if your mind has never gone there, your body won't, right? So running those scenarios through your head before you're in that situation, like just running those what if scenarios is huge. And then obviously the more you train, the more that stuff becomes muscle memory, right? And being comfortable shooting while on the move, being comfortable shooting support hand, like being comfortable shooting know your effective target range, right? Especially with the weapon system that you're using. If I have a pistol, my range is going to be a lot different than if I have an AR or a rifle or anything like that. For me, that instance, it's always changed my everyday approach, right? So now, instead of operating on the assumption that every gun that I've ever owned is always loaded no matter what, because that's how I always carry a gun, it takes 2 seconds in the morning to do a press check and make sure that, yep, I got one in the chamber, right? Yeah. And that's honestly probably my biggest takeaway from this whole thing, because that's kind of the whole change. That would have changed everything, right?
Yeah.
Now, granted, the way I look at it now is, if I had one in the chamber, and after I got shot, I had one in the chamber and I did what I needed to do, the training on that point would have then taken effect, and I would have gone up to him. I would have cleared that gun. I would have done everything else that I'm supposed to do after shooting. Meanwhile, I'm still bleeding out.
Yeah.
Right? So the reality of it is as much as I didn't like it, as much as I kicked myself in the pants for it, it probably saved my life that I didn't have it in the chamber, because I wouldn't have stopped.
You would have been in the fight.
I would have just kept going. I would have kept in the fight. I would have kept doing what I was supposed to do, regardless of what was going on here. Because like I said, I knew I was bleeding. I knew my arm was broken, but I didn't know how bad it was.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't know how bad it was until Jarrid and Connie got to me and they said, you need to get in the car right now. And I happened to look down and just see that my entire leg is covered, see how much blood is on my arm. And then I kind of was like, oh, yeah, we're in a bad spot, right? So.
Well, and even if you'd had your gun drawn, it's hard to say. I mean, it was all so fast, especially, you come around, you just immediately meet, and, you may not recognize it right away.
Right.
Like, oh, that's the bad guy. Because like you said, his gun was down and he brought it up after you came around.
Right.
Who knows what could happen. I don't know, man. I'm very much a divine intervention I believe in God, and you just wonder if it was like, hey, if I had one in the chamber, like you said, and like all these things that you're telling me, this story is just like one thing after another.
Yeah.
It leads ultimately my belief that you're still here. So I don't know.
100%. Always been a very firm believer that everything happens for a reason, right? Whether you understand or you don't, whether you agree with it or not, things happen for a reason, right? And that's kind of been my approach to all the good, all the bad that's ever happened in my life, right?
Yeah.
So, and as many times as I've played it over my head, if I had my gun out on my initial approach, right, and I didn't have one in the chamber on my initial, if my gun situation was the same, but the difference was I had it out on my initial approach. When I come around the corner, I see that guy, I probably would have squared up to him, and I would have went to shoot, and my gun would have clicked just like it did.
Yeah.
And his didn't, right? Which means that now I'm probably shot in the chest versus in my arm. And at that point, Connie and Jarrid wouldn't have seen me. So I would have gone down and laid there for who knows how long.
Yeah.
Right? So probably would have been dead at that point, right? So, okay, now let's say I have one in the chamber. Still probably the same thing, because, honestly, he got his gun up quick. Even if I had my gun, it's probably still going to be about the same situation, except for maybe I drop him at the same time.
Yeah.
But either way, I'm still going to be laying there, and nobody's going to have any idea that I'm in as bad of a situation as I am.
Yeah.
Right? And then we've talked about, if I had one in the chamber but kept it concealed on the initial approach, came back, drew, I probably still would have bled out. Right? So it's hard to say that I would change much. Right? I still think, given my reasoning, given the unknowns that we had, or that I had on the initial approach, I still think that I probably would have done about the same on the initial approach, just because you don't know. There's so much unknown. If there was a way I could have, had my gun out, but maybe kept it a little bit more secured or a little more, hidden, for lack of better terms, maybe.
Yeah.
Right? But there's still that fact of, what if, the ISP trooper who was off duty inside the building was coming out that window as I go running by with my gun out.
Yeah.
He doesn't know who I am. All he sees is a guy with a gun.
Yeah.
Right? So there's all those aspects that it's like, it sucks how it ended up, and I would like to think that if this was to happen again, hopefully it doesn't, but if it does, I would, maybe be a little bit better able to assess the situation before I go running.
Yeah.
But you just never know. Every situation is going to be different. Every situation is going to be fluid, and you're going to have to make the best, game plan in that moment. And unfortunately, that's why you try to mentally rehearse, mentally train for the scenarios, and have those decisions made a little bit beforehand. But sometimes you can't train for everything, you can't prepare for everything, and sometimes you just got to go with what you got, and you got to trust your gut.
Yeah.
And in that moment, my gut told me to keep my gun away.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know it's, obviously you've seen all the discussions online and gun owners talking about, well, do this, do that, do the other. And I just kept saying, look, you've got a guy who went towards the gunfire. And to me, anybody that does that, whether they're armed or not, is a hero. They're brave. They're trying to stop somebody that's evil. And again, as a combat veteran, people react differently when stuff starts happening, right? You just have no idea what you're really going to do in those situations. Now that you could run towards the bad guy, and like in my head, I'm thinking, okay, if that happens, rather than running towards it, you kind of go up towards the building and peek around and but again, I can say that because I wasn't there. I wasn't under all that pressure. There's not gunfire. There's not all this chaos, and so it's easy to look, have that hindsight to say, okay. But honestly, I think it is helpful because I hope a lot of people hear your story and go, okay, we saw what happened to Austin. I'm going to make sure, like you said, I'm going to make sure I have a round in. Like, okay, if I'm going to take a gun, here's why Austin was concerned. What can I do to alleviate that? You could look at Jordan, Salinas, who, put rounds towards the guy. He was in a much different place, in a much different position. Technically, he sort of had some concealment a little bit. There's all those bushes and the trees and stuff. I mean, so every situation is different. And I've told gun owners, I said, I think honestly, there is that risk. Yes, usually the police usually it's all over by the time the police arrive. But to your point, the off-duty cop, you don't know, right? And it's Idaho. A lot of people are carrying guns, which I'm very happy about because I think it saved a lot of lives with you guys all trying to intervene. But, that's a risk that you take. You draw that firearm, somebody could inadvertently, and I don't know if you've heard the story, there's another guy that was by a dumpster. You can see him in the pictures, and he has told me he had a gun. He didn't know who was the good guy and who was the bad guy, and he left. And he goes, I felt horrible. I feel like I let my community down. And I'm like, no, bro, like it's okay. I'd rather you not shoot someone that you don't know. It's not the bad guy. Now for Jordan, I think he had the benefit of he saw what was happening to the vehicles and just tried to do the best he could with a pistol against a rifle, which is a horrible situation altogether. But I hope gun owners are able to learn stuff from your story and what you've gone through. It is like you said, time and distance, space, all that stuff comes into play, right? Like kind of like you said, like Jordan had that different vantage point of being able to see what was going on and make his assessment from there versus even the off-duty trooper who's inside, like he's got a lot going on, right? Like he's worried about all the people and like he's got to make sure that he's staying safe and keeping them safe, and he's not going to accidentally hurt one of them while trying to address this situation. Like he's got an absolute total chaos in a confined space. Right? And then in his window,
and his window is
drive shooting out of his little drive-through window, and you're trying to see the bad guy, and like you said, maybe you're slowly walking around with your gun like this, and you think, oh, there he is.
Then there's the medical side of things, right? Like it's maybe something to think about too. Like, I had a tourniquet, not a tourniquet I was super familiar with, right? So like if you're gonna carry that stuff, be familiar with it. Be familiar with the tools that you have, whether it's your firearm, your med kits, your whatever it is, right? And think about, okay, well, when we're training, like in law enforcement, we train all the time. Self-aid, your right arm's down. Put your tourniquet on yourself. Figure out how to handle the situation with your left hand. What if you have to reload, right? Obviously, law enforcement is different. You have an external holster, you can drop it in, reload, do whatever you need to do, right? But as a civilian or as somebody who's not going to be in a full uniform with a duty belt and all that kind of stuff, like how are you going to handle those situations, right? So it all goes back to training, right? Yeah. For Connie and I, it's a conversation that we've had, like if I'm going to have this stuff with me, this medical stuff, like, yes, I've received training on it, but I guarantee you she's better equipped to handle medical stuff than I am, right? So why not let her know, like, hey, I have a tourniquet, I have chest seals, I have wound packing, I have this, I have that, here's where it is, this is where it's always going to be. If something happens, this is how to get to it, whatever, right? Because if I had been, for whatever reason, so say I went condition black, right, for some reason because I got shot and I couldn't communicate, I couldn't function, I couldn't remember the fact that I had a tourniquet sitting in my bag. If she had been aware of that, then she wouldn't have to rely on me to say, oh, hey, I have this tourniquet, let's do it. Like, she knows where everything is, right? So that's kind of one of those things, like, especially for like us as a couple, like that's something that kind of we've talked about of like, like I should have done better about letting you know what we have supplies wise and where they're at and how to get to them, right? Especially because she's an ER nurse. Right?
Yeah, well, and having a kit that does the serious things you would want it to do, right? Not just some first aid kit with some Neosporin and some Band-Aids.
Right, like a tournament, maybe a chest seal, because if I had gotten shot in the ribs, right, like that's gonna create a sucking chest wound. We're gonna have to get that sealed off, so I know a guy who's a shooter for SIG, right? Shoots for 6 hours, and I've talked to him. He's he's in the Marines. He did contracting. Like I talked to him about, hey, what are some good, IFACs that I could have that we can get that have those immediate, medical stuff, tourniquets, stop the bleeds, combat gauze, wound packing, that kind of stuff. The type of stuff that I used to carry on me when I was a cop. Yeah. Right, but. In all reality, like those are the things that, like, if you're gonna bleed out, it's an arterial bleed, 3 to 5 minutes, right? Yeah. Like, throw a tourniquet on it if you can. If you can't, pack it or direct pressure, right? But just know what you have available to you,
and know how to use it.
And make sure everybody else knows how to use it.
And it doesn't even have to be, for gun owners watching, it doesn't have to be a mass shooting. Right. It could be a shooting victim, or it could be a serious crash. Yeah. Which happens all the time. So there are reasons to, have all the equipment you need. I just keep going back to, you're so lucky that your wife and her friend, who are both ER nurses. Yeah. That's the big part, right? Yes. If they were just regular Joe Schmoes, it wouldn't have mattered. Right. The fact that he was able to reach in and plug that 3 to 4 minute drive or whatever it was, after you've already been bleeding out for a while would have. Yeah, that's tough. Is it for you mentally, or is it do you relive that day quite a bit still? I mean, it's obviously fairly fresh.
No, not really. Yeah. From that day. Obviously, my biggest struggle was the fact that I didn't have one in the chamber, right? That was my biggest hurdle to get over. I'm thankful that, I've had enough people to talk to and know that, it happens to the best of us, unfortunately. I have cop friends who've shared their oh crap moments with me, and, that helps. And having a strong support system at home has been, life changing to have the help and the support. In all reality, like I don't worry about it now. I've come to terms with the fact that it is what it is, and it happened for a reason, and I probably would be dead if it was any different, right? So luckily I'm here. If I can change it for next time, hopefully there is no next time, then I'll do what I have to do. If somebody can learn from it, if somebody can, gets into a similar situation and they're able to learn from my mistakes, then for me that was worth it, right? Like it made it worth it. It was a crazy situation. It was a crazy day. It was a lot. Like it was traumatic. I like to think that my time in law enforcement kind of helped mentally prepare me for it.
Sure.
I also come from a long family of law enforcement that we weren't sheltered.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't sheltered from the possibilities, right? Like my dad was in it for 25 years. My grandparents both retired from law enforcement. My stepdad was in corrections. My uncle was California Highway Patrol.
Jeez.
So the idea of life is short and things can happen and bad things happen has not been like unknown to me. Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of, my dad walked out the house every day and there was a chance he could not come home.
Yeah.
Right. So like
Yeah.
that upbringing, for lack of better terms, I think kind of helps also.
Yeah.
I do like to think I do a good job of compartmentalizing and dealing with stuff, you know, just by nature. But I'm also, like, I understand that, like, at some point there could be something that, you know, it does bother me at some point down the road, right? Or something happens.
Survivor's guilt or
Yeah,
kicks in or
something,
something.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm not Mr. Macho. Like, if I need to go talk to somebody, I will 1000% go talk to somebody, right? Because I am a firm believer in that also. That does help. It can help. I've seen it be super helpful for a lot of people, right? And I'm not scared or anything to say that, hey, I need help.
Yeah.
Right. So luckily, you know, my wife is fantastic and like I can talk to her about anything all the time. And if I can't went to her and say, hey, I need help, like we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. And same thing for her, like, and Jarrid, like all three of us have sat down, like, because it's not just me who went through it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the three of us went through it, right?
All
Like,
of you. Yeah.
we actually had Jarrid's mom come in and spend some time with us. And, you know, she kind of asked him, like, what are you doing? Why are you running towards it? Like, you should be running the opposite way. And Jarrid's response is, that's my friend, and he needs my help. You know, and like, what more could you ask for, right?
Yeah.
So it's good to know that you have people like that in your life. So
That's amazing. Has the community support been
Oh my
awesome here in
gosh.
Twin Falls?
the community support, the support from just all over the place has been absolutely amazing. It's actually kind of funny. So a lot of people have talked about the negativity on Facebook, right? I really didn't see it.
Oh, good.
I know
Good for you, man.
a lot of people said that they saw it, and a lot of people were like, man, I wanted to just rip this person apart for this, for that, the other. And
Yeah.
I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I didn't really see it.
Oh, good.
You know,
Good.
and I know it's out there. That's just the world. It is what it is. And I knew it was going to happen. I knew that there was going to be, you know, those armchair quarterbacks or whatever you want to call it,
Always
right?
is, yeah.
There always is with everything, which it is what it is, you know. And if you know somebody does it better, great. You know, more power to them, right? I did what I thought was right, given the information that I had, and that's all I can do, and I will stand by that. But I really didn't feel the negativity on social media, like from anybody. You know, I saw one post the entire time. I saw one post that was negative, and it really wasn't that bad. And honestly, like going through the comments on that one post, like everybody had
Just raking them over the coals for it.
yeah. And you know, it goes to show that like it sucks that it takes something like this to bring the community together like this. And you know, in a perfect world, this would just be the way the community is all the time.
Right.
But we all have lives. We all have our own issues, our own stressors, our own battles that we're fighting on a daily basis. So I get it. But I literally cannot say enough for the Twin Falls community, the gun community, just people in general. You know, it was really almost, for lack of better terms, like kind of restores that faith in humanity, that there are good people that do actually care, not just like face value, like keyboard warrior care kind of thing, but they actually do care. You know, I love to see, you know, the different businesses around, like doing fundraisers for the victims, for those that, you know, weren't able to make it out of it. And, you know, the support that was shown there, and even the support that right there at In-N-Out, right on the corner. Like I like to see that every time I drive by it, there's the flowers, and there was that big cross that guy brought from
so cool.
like Michigan or wherever.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
That's awesome.
You know, so the support has been amazing, and I can't even say thank you enough to everybody, both community, few and far between. I had a guy from Canada reach out to me.
Wow.
That he was just like, you know what, your morals align with us up here. Like, I appreciate everything that you did. Like, you know, like it's really, really amazing to see how much support both, you know, community here, local and far away, and then the gun community obviously has been really awesome, especially here locally. I think you and I talked about Daniel over with QRF. Like, they've been awesome guys, awesome group that he has working in there. A great store to work with, super friendly. So I definitely told Daniel, I said, you're gonna have a majority of my business from here on out. He's just been, he's a great guy,
Awesome. Well, is there anything, I really appreciate you taking time. I know you're busy and got a lot on your plate, obviously, but I appreciate you. And I really do hope that gun owners especially can learn something. Well, and not just gun owners, anybody, you know, especially on like the first aid stuff and all that. But I hope that they can take some just amazing lessons from your story. Is there anything else you want to say in closing that we haven't talked about, or anything else?
Just thank you for the opportunity to put it out there. Like I said, I do think that there's some things to take away, you know, learn from my mistakes, as bad as that sounds. But, you know, if it helps somebody out down the road, then that makes it all worth it, kind of thing. You know, and I appreciate all the support, and, you know, obviously it's sad that, you know, we couldn't all make it out, and I feel for that family, and, you know, we'll continue to keep those families in our prayers and our thoughts, you know, and just be there for each other.
Awesome. All right, sir. Appreciate your time. Thank you
very much.